Hello everyone, welcome to Torah for Women Ministries, Mountain Moments with Judith Garten. We are continuing in our journey on prayer journaling today. In this lesson, we're going to go over the next piece of the armor from Ephesians 6. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. That is from Ephesians 6, and that is the King James Version I just read. Now, before we get started, if you haven't seen it, I want to show you, there we go, Torah for Women's Virtuous Women's Prayer Journal. This is available on Amazon if you would like to purchase one. And then you can journal along. And also in the links below, in the description below, I will include the links to prayer journaling number 1, as well as prayer journaling number 2. That way you have a head start. You can go back and start with the beginning of the armor. But since you're here, sit down, have a listen, and we will work on the shield of faith. The parts we're going to discuss in this section of Ephesians 6 will be taking on the shield of faith, the ability to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. 2 simple pieces: faith and quenching all the fiery darts. Have you ever thought about whether or not you could quench them all? Put the fire out on them all? Let's go forward. You know, when you think about it, your faith truly is your shield. It's your shield from the whole world. When things go awry, no matter whether spiritually, physically, financially, medically, it is your faith that provides protection from what the world presents to you in all areas. Why? Because God is your protector and He is your provider, and He is there. And when you have that faith in Him and that trust, as well as trustability, because you want to find Him trustable, we have videos on that, you will know that no matter what, He has you covered, because He works all things together for our good. Now, if you lose a job, a doctor makes a claim against your health, the adversary attempts to lead you down the wrong path, it's your faith, your belief that God exists, which will pull you back. Now, whether your shield is round, elongated, square, or rectangular, it doesn't matter. It will serve its function well. Is it glittery and glossy, or is it just a hard soldier's, warrior's shield? In battle, no matter whether your shield is wood, metal, or a combination of both, or today you've got some made of Kevlar and some really amazing hard, heavy-duty, shatterproof plastics and things, when you think of those, the sturdy, solid construction of a shield, it is designed to provide maximum benefit to the warrior. And that shield is your faith. Imagine that. It is unshatterable. It is bulletproof. Your faith is there. That faith, and I wore this on purpose today. This is my newest mustard seed necklace. Years ago, my kids got me one, and I don't know what has happened to it. It was a little tiny heart with a clear glass on both sides, and inside was one tiny mustard seed, and it was so small. But that faith of that mustard seed, there's a lot more of them in this little bauble. I don't know if you can see that. A little bauble and all the little mustard seeds. All you need to cling to is that little tiny seed, because out of that little seed comes a great and wondrous mustard tree, a mustard plant. Look at that, just that little thing. And there's so many benefits. I don't know if you ever thought about that, to mustard. It has so many nutrients that feed your body. It helps you. It's healing and all of these great things. It is a perfect example for Yeshua to have used with the faith of the mustard seed. As everything crashes down around you in this world today, and it seems to be crashing right and left, you can lean on your faith to give you the strength, and that faith needs to be without doubt. Let him ask in faith, without any doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven by the wind and tossed. James 1:6. Now, doubt presents itself in so many ways. we don't always think of certain thoughts or emotions as being doubt. Believers often think that doubt is displayed only when you say those words in your heads or out loud. I don't think God's going to do this for me. Or, I doubt God's going to bless me. But that's not the only way we show our doubts. Doubt shows its ugly head in so many other ways. A few years ago, we went to see another preacher speak, and some of these ideas I actually have from myself that came to me when I was preparing a series on doubt and God being trustable. Some of them came from this preacher we were listening to. We went with our friends, Herky and Sue, and I was shocked because I never thought of some of these as being. So let me start at the top. When God tells you he's going to do something and you say, but God, I don't think you can do that. Or, but God, that's doubt. You are doubting the words he just said to you. The Holy Spirit told you God will bless you with. And you said, but God, you just doubted him. I've done it a lot of times. What about fear, worry, concern? All of those are forms of doubt that creep into our hearts and in our minds. That uncertainty. You don't have confidence. You're kind of like, well, maybe. Doubt. What about indecision? You feel a strong push from the Holy Spirit to start a new job, and you apply for jobs, and you have 3 of them that come back to you and say, we want to hire you. But the Holy Spirit is definitely telling you one of those is the right one. But it's not the one with the most money or the biggest things that you are seeking in life. Yet it has the potential to go further. That is an indecision. When you're doubting the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit's telling you accept that offer, that moment right then, you're undecided. And that indecision is doubt. Apprehension is another form of doubt. Confusion. God is not the author of confusion. Remember that. And since he's not the author of confusion, get rid of the doubt out of your head. What about difficulty in accepting what Abba says? Resolve. Well, I guess God didn't want to bless me with that. Guess it is what it is. Oh, well. That resolve that it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. What about discouragement? Lack of trust? That again goes back to this series I'm working on with Trustable. We often find God as trustworthy. We know he's worthy of our trust, but we can't go that extra mile and put that full trust in him. This next type of doubt I've actually mentioned a few times, and it kind of goes along with some of the other ones. When we jump in and usurp his plan, this one appears oftentimes as impatience with him because we think he's not fast enough, good enough, doing it the way we want, so we take it back. We take it back and we try to do it ourselves. What about when we think we know better what we need than God? Have you ever lectured God? Have you ever laid down the gauntlet before God? I did. I'll tell you about that one. The house we currently live in. I wanted a house with at least 5 acres and more property. I'm actually very grateful now God gave us just about 1 acre because the land up here in the Appalachians is much different than living in New Jersey, Ohio, New York, and Arizona. And I've had to take years to learn how to prep the soil for gardening and be able to grow things in it. And I just discovered randomly a few months ago that I have an issue with soil in the prayer garden we're trying to set up. This is hilarious. There's actually a thing called aquaphobic soil, and it repels water. It doesn't absorb it. It might look wet on the top, but if you dig down just a ½ an inch in our soil, it did not saturate. We can have 3 straight days of rain and it doesn't do anything. So God knew what he was doing, but I didn't want to come look at this house. And Jim kept pushing me to look at the house. And finally I said, you know what? Fine. You want to keep pushing it? Push it. Fine. If God drops the price on that house, $20,000, I'll go look at it. So Jim pulled up the ad on one of those real estate websites. God didn't drop it 20. God dropped it 30. When we doubt his words and promises, when you don't find him trustable, I've learned from that a lot. I don't lay down the gauntlet before God anymore. But that's where we need to see those things happening in our lives. And that's when you need to record them in your prayer journal and say, I did this today and God did this, and learn my lesson. My lessons are, write those down, because if you ever get in that position again, you're going to need to rely back on those words. That's what your prayer journaling is for. We find him trustworthy, but we don't find him trustable. We have become such a society of anything he can do, I can do better. And we do try. But when we rely on him, another example was, I didn't want to move to West Virginia. And Jim said he felt that was where we were supposed to go. And he said, you need to pray about it. I went and prayed about it. And that time I found God trustable. I still did not want to move to West Virginia, but God said that was the place we needed to be. And since being here, I love it. I love this place. I love where we are. We have the most magnificent sunrises. The weather is unpredictable, yes, but I love it. It just is the place we needed to be. And I feel that all the time. I, in that case, found him trustable. By the way, the gauntlet came after that. So we do sometimes need to rely on our journals because I found him trustable. We started looking in West Virginia, but I didn't want this house. I wanted more land. So there you go. I found him trustable in one instance and not in the next. But you know, Yeshua told us we all need just that mustard seed. These seeds are so tiny in comparison. In this little necklace, so tiny in comparison to a shield, when you've got that shield in front of you. Yet he says that that's all we need to start with. That's all we need. And we can move mountains. Picture having a whole shield rather than just a tiny mustard seed. When you envision the Roman soldier who has that shield held in front of him, it's a warning to anyone coming at him in attack mode. I am armored up. I have my shield held firmly and you cannot get through. That's what we say to the adversary when we're holding our shield of faith. That shield of faith can work in various ways. On one hand, it can be a protection for just us. As we take it up and hold it firmly, courageously in front of us, it can be a wall stopping everything the adversary throws at you. Everything. You can, from the front, when you see it coming. You can protect your body from the sides. You can move from side to side, moving it directionally as you need to move it. No matter where those darts are coming from, you move from side to side and you do that. Did you know that some soldiers have even been trained to flip their shield up and over their head? And then they drop it down behind them to protect whatever's sneaking up on them from behind. You know the adversary sometimes comes in like a blazing fire. And other times he sneaks up from behind. What if the fiery darts rain down from above and you're with others and you place that shield over your head and the heads of others? Now you're protecting yourself, your family, your friends, your loved ones. No matter what the adversary rains down, you can battle it. Now the shield has another purpose. Have you ever watched reenactments of Roman battles in movies? They're really cool. Have you ever seen how they will, when attacked by a major force, and they cannot fight it as individuals going forward and pushing in, they need to form a shield wall? Even Vikings used to do that. One warrior would call out loudly, "Shield wall!" And they form a row, holding their shields together, each overlapping the next, and it becomes a wall of faith, standing against the adversary. It makes a solid force protection. There's another form of shield wall called the tortoise or the turtle as well. And with that, they had soldiers assigned. Each and every one. You had the front guys overlapping. You had the back guys overlapping. And then you had guys who would raise the shield up above. And now you've got a whole tortoise shell covering you completely. The forces are protected from whatever's fired at them. Imagine those shields of faith, a line in the front, a line in the back, and a line overhead. Faithful warriors standing there, armored up, and we're able to defend and protect not only ourselves, but our loved ones, our neighbors, everyone around us with that shield wall or with the tortoise. God is our provider and our protector. And we might think for a moment that we are the power stopping the fiery darts, and we might be prideful, but we can't do that. In reality, our faith is not in ourselves. It's in God. It is in Him. When I envision the shield of faith in this fashion as the Roman soldiers did as a band of warriors, it just makes my heart swell to know that He has me covered in so many ways. Not just myself, but when I call upon prayer warriors to stand with me and they're armored up, I'm telling you, that turtle shell of protection is amazing, and the blessings can flow forward unbelievably, and you're protected, you're provided for, and God is there with you all. There are ways in which I get in God's way, and the big one is that pride. I can take credit sometimes for things that God does for me. Or another one I see all the time with a lot of people, I don't use the word very often because I've gotten out of the habit, is, oh my goodness, I was so lucky I didn't get into that car accident. No, you weren't. That was your faith shield. When I see the adversary has been thwarted on one way or another, sometimes I get in God's way by taking the credit for what He did, and we can't do that. Another way I get in His way is by using my faith, not using my faith at all, which is actually another form of pride. When I think to myself, I don't need God for this one, I got it. This is simple. I plow forward without talking to Him, and finding out what He wants me to do with things, what direction He wants. Yeah, I've done that, and that's backfired. One silly way He's given me a witness in this area is in grocery shopping. Believe it or not, I've asked Him in prayer. Sometimes we've had like $20, $60, $40, $50 for 2 weeks worth of groceries during some of our really strapped times. And I would go to Him and I would just say, I'm uncertain about things, God. Should we actually go shopping today or should we wait? Do you know there have been times when He said, just wait a day or two. And when I wait and I've listened to that, He's blessed us tremendously with store specials, sales, produce on clearance. It just is amazing. I cannot count how many times it's happened, how many times we've been blessed greatly. However, there are also some times I don't listen. In those cases, we often have either had to put stuff back, not had enough food for the week or two, or overspent and had to take money from somewhere else to cover the expenses. Those were the times I deeply learned I definitely need to trust in Him sometimes for the little things. Now, what is your challenge for this week? Well, while you are in your prayer time, I would like to ask you to take a hard look of the list of doubts that I presented to you. Do you find you do any of these things? If so, when you're most likely to fall into that behavior, write down the ones which you feel you definitely do. Then take a hard look at yourself. When are you most likely to do those or fall into that behavior? What can you do to stop yourself and trust in Yahweh more in those times? Do you experience any examples of pride, taking credit for what God did for you? Or where do you think you need to ask Him for the little things in life? In Genesis 18:14 we can read, is anything too hard for Yahweh? Nope, not at all. Matthew 19:26, looking at them, Jesus said, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. We are his precious ones, and he is there for our every need to guide and direct us and help us through. Let's lean on him as we ought to. Blessings and shalom.